I'll have the number 8.
That's a party platter. It serves 12 people.
I know what I'm about, son.
Food addiction can often go undetected unless you know the telltale signs. With that in mind, here are the 10 most common symptoms of food addiction.
Enough is enough!
Craving food regardless of being hungry.
Yep, there's always room for Jell-O.
You just finished a very filling dinner and there's nothing left on your plate but crumbs and a full stomach. Yet you still want something else, something that will undoubtedly hit the spot. It may come as a shock to some, but being drawn back to the fridge after enjoying one of the 3 recommended daily meals is a scenario all too familiar for many.
Tell me about it.
The overwhelming feeling of not being satisfied after eating, regardless of having a full stomach, is common with food addiction. That's the power the almighty food craving can have. Often appearing shortly after eating and, in some cases, immediately following a meal, cravings for your favorite savory or sweet snack will surface, fueling the urge to once again partake in a session of overindulgence. A craving differs from hunger, often having nothing to do with appetite. It's entirely psychological, serving to provide an endorphin release rather than provide nourishment or energy. Most experts agree that the regions of the brain responsible for memory, pleasure, and reward play a major role in food cravings, with the appetite centers of the brain also involved. There are other contributing factors responsible for food cravings, such as emotional issues and hormonal imbalances. These hormones can include serotonin and leptin, to name a few. So the next time the call comes rushing into the ear in the middle of the night for a tasty slice of whatever happens to be inside the refrigerator or pantry, remember, it's the brain, not the stomach, who's calling. Eating more than originally planned.
What I said was, give me all the bacon and eggs you have.
For many out there, the ability to make their way to the pantry, fetch a bag of chips or perhaps a handful of chocolate-covered almonds, and proceed to enjoy the snack resting in their hand until finished is little more than an afterthought. However, for those with food addictions, this isn't an option. A handful can easily turn into 2, 3, 4, and ultimately an empty package, as your brain tells you that 1 is never enough and moderation is simply not an option. Someone with a food addiction will often intend to enjoy a simple morsel of their favorite treat, but will find it impossible to stop and will continue eating until there's nothing left. The mindset is always there, but the ability to put the brakes on the situation is the missing element.
Did you steal my Cheetos again?
The continuous consumption beyond what was originally planned and the inability to feel satisfied often occurs simultaneously. Some experts in food psychology have suggested adopting alternatives to your preferred snacks that offer the same endorphin release from the brain. Foods such as dark chocolate and even a large selection of berries may not seem as tasty as their junk food siblings. However, these are a few of the foods that will have your brain pumping out those feel-good hormones just as effectively as your go-to snack of choice. Fooling the brain seems to be half the battle. Time to show the brain who's boss. Overindulging to the point of feeling sick.
I ate too much bacon.
Having one more slice of pizza is one thing, and is usually the plan. After all, who among us hasn't glanced down after savoring the last bite and decided to pick up another slice? However, it's an entirely different ballgame when one more slice turns into eating past the point of I'm full and to the point of discomfort and beyond.
Has anybody talked to Tom? I can't even imagine what that tiny little man must be feeling like.
Reaching the point of nausea is not unheard of with individuals who have a food addiction. Once a person dealing with a food addiction has exceeded their capacity, it isn't as simple as telling yourself, okay, that's enough. As with any addiction, there are several factors that are at play. Family history may be a factor behind overindulgence. A history of addiction within your family can often lead to addiction of any kind in the preceding generations. Most experts suggest identifying trigger foods and trying to avoid bringing them into the home, or at least keeping those foods, such as chips and cookies, out of sight. However, most experts will advise you to not get rid of all your favorite treats, as getting rid of all of these foods may lead to feeling deprived and can lead to another bout of overeating to the point of discomfort. New to our channel? Then take a sec and hit that subscribe button. Thanks!
Let's roll.
Feeling guilty immediately after eating.
What have I done?
I know.
Sitting down after a hard day at work before venturing into the kitchen for a quick pick-me-up is something everyone can relate to. However, enjoying a savory bag of chips, a rich chocolate bar, or any number of delightful snacks only to find yourself overwhelmed with guilt immediately after consumption is an affliction often felt by those with food addiction. Feelings of guilt either preceding or following a moment of enjoying your favorite food is a common dilemma with food addiction, often coming about after trying to exhibit self-control when faced with the option of eating or overindulging. The feelings of guilt and shame can weigh heavy on an individual's psyche. The negative feelings that come with thoughts that you've somehow failed yourself can lead to more negative feelings. However, despite the feelings of guilt, a person dealing with food addiction will continue to repeat the cycle.
Again and again and again.
Food psychologists have suggested that feelings of guilt after eating may not be from food and, in fact, may stem from a lack of self-confidence and low self-esteem. If a person with food addiction begins to feel guilt after eating, experts suggest taking a moment to reflect on what's happened, asking questions such as, what happened that made me want to eat this food? What was my mood before eating? What were the exact triggers that led to the feelings of guilt? And finally, what could I have done differently that would have resulted in a different outcome? Taking a moment of self-reflection offers you a chance to take back some control and possibly avoid guilty thoughts. Making excuses for excessive eating.
My diet starts tomorrow.
Opening up a package of sandwich cookies after a bad day at work, glancing down at a savory bag of tortilla chips before indulging after receiving some bad news, or treating yourself because any calories eaten today will be burned off tomorrow with a strenuous amount of exercise.
Another fun fact, your brain burns 20% of the calories you consume.
These are all excuses that tend to go hand in hand with anyone with food addiction. Rationalizing and trying to convince yourself that it's okay to partake is an unfortunate psychological tool a food addict's brain will often employ, as it's often easy to put something off for one day. Similar to that New Year's resolution that you may find you're unable to stick to, the excuse gives the option of a way out with justification. The brain is often one step ahead of any plans a food addict may conjure up to fend off the inevitable. Food psychologists have suggested taking the time to see what excuses you're telling yourself. Then think about whether these excuses are true. Failed attempts at trying to quit.
This is my second burger. Okay, I lied, it's my fourth.
To say that trying to overcome addiction of any kind is monumentally difficult is an understatement. Most people with food addiction will often make several attempts to quit eating in excess, but to no avail. Whether the attempt is using the cold turkey method or slowly trying to wean yourself off of your favorite foods, the result is usually the same.
Better luck next time.
Some may even place a set of strict rules to ensure that their attempt at quitting will end in success. However, allowing one last cheat meal or a send-off binge before finally ending the food love affair is often met with consistent failure. If at first you don't succeed, try again isn't an option in this case. Most experts will implore you to seek help from specialists who can offer you a better process of quitting that will prove more effective. With a myriad of food psychologists and counselors available, professional help is only a phone call or website away. Keep in mind the old saying, if at first you don't succeed, try again. Sure, it may be a bit tired or cliche, but it's nonetheless a statement to live by. Keeping your eating habits secret.
Our secret.
Heading downstairs in the middle of the night and making your way into the kitchen ever so quietly as to not wake your spouse or significant other. Venturing toward a pack of goodies nestled behind a set of dishes. Perhaps making your way into the basement to do laundry only to retrieve a snack from your pocket. These are all examples of a need to keep eating habits known to you and you alone. Often with food addiction, the feeling that your food habits must be kept a secret are just as powerful as any other, usually stemming from guilt, shame, or fear of being judged. A person dealing with food addiction may also attempt to avoid divulging all the information about their eating habits, choosing only to reveal half of what they may have eaten during the day.
Okay, let's say it is ice cream, but I didn't eat it. I couldn't have. I'm lactose intolerant.
When attempting to overcome secret eating, most experts have stated to avoid adopting the mindset of assuming what others are thinking. Thoughts or comments from another person are more often directed toward themselves as a conscious or subconscious self-critique. For the most part, the world is far too busy worrying about itself, so keep that in mind. It'll go a long way to stop concealing your food habits from others. An inability to quit despite health risks.
I'm diabetic, but I still eat sugar out of the bag.
For many, food is seen as a necessity, simply a source of fuel for the body and nothing more. For others, food is much more.
This pie is so good, I hate it.
You just graduated pie school.
Food can be a pleasurable experience that goes beyond simply being fuel for the body. For food addicts, the addiction to food, more specifically the overindulgence of food, can lead to a host of health problems. Those health problems can include depression, low self-esteem, and problems with digestion. Some of the more serious issues, such as heart disease and obesity, can lead to long-lasting, permanent health problems. Having the knowledge of possibly causing harm to yourself may not be enough to stop, as addiction can prove to be a powerful force despite the consequences. Food psychologists and other experts will point to cognitive behavioral therapy to aid the food addict. Cognitive behavioral therapy helps you feel better about yourself and stops the negative feelings that lead to binging to the point of major health risks. These specialists may prescribe certain drugs, such as antidepressants, that will help with your general mood, which can lead to the end of overeating and, subsequently, the end of health risks. Obsessive thoughts or preoccupation with food.
Bacon wrapped shrimp. That's my #1 favorite food, wrapped around my #3 favorite food.
Finding yourself stuck in an endless loop daydreaming about a mouth-watering cheeseburger as you fill your car with gas, or perhaps fidgeting with your keyboard while at work as you stare past your monitor thinking of a large order of piping hot fries fresh out of the fryer, or remaining lost in thought as an image of a hot fudge sundae slowly begins to melt over its container. This is a common scenario for someone with a food addiction. Favorite foods occupy your thoughts while attempting to go about doing daily routines. A person with food addiction can spend countless hours obsessing about their most desired treats.
Chicken nugget, I like to eat you while I drive.
These obsessive thoughts can be more than a simple distraction, leading to activating cravings and seeking out whatever happens to be floating around in the mind. Experts say that thinking about food is not abnormal by any means. However, if you do find yourself obsessively thinking about your favorite treats, they suggest a homeostatic pathway in your brain telling you that you're in need of fuel could be the problem. Other factors could be stress or even outside stimuli compelling you to think about your favorite foods. Food psychologists will often recommend personal assessment and offer up techniques to occupy your mind with thoughts unrelated to food. Your best friend is always a professional, so you shouldn't hesitate to seek one out for help. There may be an underlying problem.
Also, whoever used this spoon, their body ain't right.
Food addiction can be looked at like an iceberg. Only the tip peeks out from the surface of the water, while the majority of the berg remains hidden beneath the water. The same can be said in certain cases of an addiction to eating. The overconsumption of food may be an underlying symptom of a more profound problem, with food simply providing a temporary solution to a long-term problem. Psychological issues such as childhood trauma and learned behavior are often root causes for food addiction, in which case treatment from behavioral therapy experts can be easily consulted for further analysis.
Forget the marbles, boy! There you go.
Again, professionals are plentiful, easy to find, and a simple phone call away. For every advancement humans have made studying the brain, we know very little about its inner workings. Various events in our lives help shape what we are, for better or for worse. Using food to soothe is just one of the coping mechanisms the brain can employ to deal with deep psychological issues. Mental health is the foundation of a person's overall well-being. With a sound mind comes a sound body.
Here comes the veggie train, leaving the station. Next stop, a healthy body.
Tune in to more great videos. Just tap or click. First time here? Then leave us a comment, hit that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell.